Well, hey, y'all. Happy Monday. Welcome to the John Campea Show, coming to you live from our quaint little studio out in an undisclosed location. I'm standing in for John just for the moment. My name is Chris Carr, but I am joined by Robert Meyer Burnett.
Come on, we're in Area 51. Everyone knows that.
That's true. Jonathan Voico.
Good morning, everybody.
And beaming in, we've got the man himself, John Campea.
You can see not in studio, and as many of you noticed, I wasn't in studio a couple of days last week. Many of you know who follow me on social media that my mom, Mama Campea, passed away late last week. My mom had been sick for quite a while, about 3 years now, and Wednesday my family got a hold of me and said, you should probably get up here right now. And fortunately, I was able to get up here fast enough to spend a great day with her on Thursday. We talked, and she was great. And then, as we expected, Friday, she passed away. I want to thank everybody, all you guys who have sent me. I've been inundated with messages and kind words, and I thank all of you so very much for all of them. I'm doing good. Like I said, I got to have a last wonderful day with my mom, and we kind of saw it. We knew this was coming, so we've had time to prepare ourselves. But I thought about taking, the week off, but my siblings reminded me, my mom loved this show. She loved that I did this show. Even from the hospital, she never missed a single day of watching the John Campea Show. And I thought it'd be remiss if I didn't do it. So I'm happy to be here. And again, thank you to all of you guys for all of your well wishes and kind words. All right. With that down, guys, let's get things kicked off here and start with this. This week, a brand new movie, several movies opened, but this one in particular came out in theaters, and it was very quiet. Companion. It didn't have a huge marketing campaign to go along with it. There wasn't a lot of talk about it with it opening up, but open it did. And right now, the critic reviews are great. As you can see right here, it's got like a 94% critic rating and a 91% audience rating with 500 verified ratings. Now, the trailers were purposefully a little bit ambiguous, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to go see it the other night, and I got to tell you, this movie's really good. It's a very low budget, very small in scope. Like, I think there's like in total maybe 7 people in the movie, maybe 8 people in the movie. It's a very small cast, limited location, one of those types of things that's just a really interesting take. Like, it's not something we've never seen before. But it's a very interesting take on the whole AI versus humanity. When does AI advance so much that it kind of becomes human? When do we treat it as human? When do we not? When are experiences real versus when are those experiences artificial? It's a really clever movie. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give a lot away. But the dialogue's crisp. They set up the scenario very well. The performances are great. I forget the name of the actor, guys, but the guy who plays Guillermo in What We Do in the Shadows.
Right. That's where I saw it. That's where I remembered it from.
Yeah. So
Guillen?
that's him. He's wonderful. I will say it's basically Guillermo. He's basically playing Guillermo in this with a few little twists, but it worked perfectly for it. Jack Quaid was wonderful. The lead girl was fantastic.
She was also in Heretic.
That's right. Mm-hmm. It was also in Heretic. And who was it that played the Russian?
I'm looking. Sergei was Rupert Friend.
Yeah.
It was Rupert Friend who was playing Sergei. And, the performances are great, and that carried it. Listen, I'm going to tell you the one thing I really didn't like about the movie. And this is going to be a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm literally spoiling something for you that happens in the first 60 seconds of the film. Okay, so I'm not giving away any of the reveals. This is something that happens in the first 60 seconds of the film. And this is something that happens in a number of movies, and I'm not sure I like this trend. It tells you right at the beginning what happens at the end. And there's a line in the film. Again, I'm going to tell you one line of dialogue that's in the first minute of the film, but it's right in the first minute. where she says, I had that one great, I'm paraphrasing a bit, that I have had two great moments, basically, when I met this guy and when I killed this guy. And I just remember sitting there, oh, I kind of wish I didn't know that.
Doesn't Sunset Boulevard do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, several movies,
Yeah.
right, have used that trope, right? And sometimes it's actually effective. But in this one, I just kind of felt like when the movie ended, it's like, I kind of wish they didn't give us that line at the very beginning of the film. But hey, listen, it's set up. They set itself up well that if they want to do more of these, they can. It's a really clever, low budget, sharply made, skillfully told story, and I really enjoyed it. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to go see Companion. What did you think about it?
Dude, I'd read the script for this movie, and I was so excited to see it, and I absolutely loved this film. It reminded me of the late 80s, the mid to late 80s, when like New Line Cinema would make these bangers like Jack Shoulder's The Hidden, where they were not large budget movies. I mean, this movie I think cost $10 million, but the plot unfolds. It's so much fun. It's so Drew Hancock, who made this movie, who wrote and directed the film. He is, I think, a protege of Zach Krieger, who made Barbarian and who has now done Weapons for Warner Brothers. That's supposedly great. These are the kind of movies that were my bread and butter movies that I was going to into the theater, you know, and I'm talking about this like at scale. The studios are making these $200 million movies now. They used to make movies like this, made on a budget that delivered the goods on every level. This movie is beautifully photographed. It's beautifully acted with a great cast. You had, you know, of course, Jack Quaid, Sophie Thatcher, who I saw in a great science fiction movie called Prospect. This film is so good, but I have to say, John, boy, did the marketing department for this movie mess up. The first trailer or teaser they released was everyone's copying A24. Mm-hmm. They're all copying.
You know what? At first, I actually, when I was watching the trailer for it, I just kind of made an assumption in the back of my mind that it was an A24 film.
Yeah, the first trailer was really great. The first teaser was great, and then they spoiled it all because what this movie needed was a really clever ad campaign. They could have played upon the fact that like this girl's really worried that she's going to meet her boyfriend's friends or they don't really like her, and they could have done a complete misdirect, but no. They have to we have to tell the audience what this movie's all about. It's like, look, if you look at a movie like Long Legs, which had an incredible ad campaign, but then the movie didn't live up to it, and it made $70 million. This movie is one of the most satisfying experiences you can have in a movie theater, and it was completely let down by the marketing. This movie should have done smile numbers. It should top out of what Long Legs did, about $70 million domestic on a $10 million budget. Look, Drew Hancock is now a great visionary. I can't wait to see what he's done next. I think he's been slated to write the remake of The Faculty, which I would imagine they'll probably get him to direct too. I love this movie on every level. This is exactly why I fell in love with movies as a kid. It wasn't just big budget genre fare. It was really clever, smart. Remember, Terminator was a $6 million movie back in '84, and no one knew who James Cameron was then. This, Drew Hancock, is a new emerging incredible talent. I love this movie so much. Go see it. The less you know, the better. Take your friends, have a few drinks, get baked, whatever. This movie is so much fun.
Thanks, Uncle Rob. I have permission to do this? Yay!
I will say, I don't think I liked it quite as much as you did.
Dude,
I really enjoyed it. I had a very, very good time with it. Although, and again, I want to be careful not to give anything significant in the film away. As they progressed into the movie, certain things happen in it, and the characters are able to do certain things where I went, if this was a thing, how would they actually do that? Would this not be something that had been thought about? How, you know, I was willing to give it a pass because it was such a small movie. But again, to me, there were a few moments where its own internal logic felt a little, okay, you're asking us as the audience to take a leap with you here. Okay, a little bit of that. But again, still, by the end of it, I walked out with a big smile, having enjoyed myself a lot. Jonathan, you had a chance to go see this, right?
Yeah, I saw it last night, actually.
What did you think about it?
So I think just regarding what Rob was saying about the marketing, I don't feel like it gave it away, but I was telling Rob before the show, I felt like this was going to be more of a psychological thing, and all those images that you and I, John, had even spoken about when we saw the trailers, like, this is going to be wild. People seem to be losing their mind, and they're going into this like fever dream and doing crazy. Everything that happens sort of happens for a logical reason. Like, I get why it's happening when you're watching it. So when there is, I'm not going to say what it is or whatever, but once you understand where the story's going, I was locked in. I was like, okay, this is not what my expectation was. This was a more linear story, but I'm in for it. And I really enjoyed it. I love the back and forth of the characters. I mean, you know, it wasn't anything like the movie Clue, but in terms of like the witty banter and all that, it did kind of harken back between these characters that you really don't like. They're all kind of miscreants, and they just have this banter.
And you hate them more and more and more as the movie goes
you're
along.
enjoying hating them.
You know, I want to give a shout out. There's a producer, Roy Lee, who watches the show, I guess.
Friend of our show, yeah.
He's produced movies like Strange Darling, Boy Kills World, Barbarian, this. I don't know who's got working for him, but he has the most impeccable taste on finding these low-budget genre movies that are all bangers. And they're all like, Boy Kills World was way better, so much fun, and no one went and saw it theatrically.
I know.
I don't get it, man. I don't understand. You've got this great quality stuff that this should all be doing long legs numbers, if not smile numbers. This should have made $200 million worldwide. I just don't get it.
I'm wondering if these films being released now and in 2016, though, will start to see a little bit more of a groundswell with audiences than when they were released in
2026?
I hope.
Yeah, in 26, then 2014 and 23 because of COVID, and then the strikes, and then the rolling out of films and delays of films. I'm hoping people get their footing, and hopefully these things don't just show up on streaming in like 2 weeks.
No, because like Strange Darling and this demanded to be seen in a theater, and you still can't get a physical media version of Barbarian. Come on, Second Sight. Come on, Disney, 20th Century or 20th Studio. License this stuff out.
And to your point, I mean, this is a movie that deserves an audience. And unfortunately, while it did come in second place this weekend, it came in second place with $9 million. And it deserves more than that. And this is one of those films I really hope gets some positive word of mouth going about it. This is a movie to go out and see. And you guys should definitely check it out. Question is for you guys. What did you think about Companion if you had a chance to see it? If so, what did you think about it? If not, why not? Did it just not look appealing to you? Or maybe like a lot of people, you didn't even see the marketing for it because they had a pretty small marketing budget. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, it's crazy. Captain America Brave New World is still a movie to me. The back of my head feels like it's coming out in about a year. It still feels like one of those movies that's a ways off. But it's coming out in like 10 days. 10 days. We'll be walking into the movie theaters to go watch this thing. At least, hopefully, a lot of people will be going into the theaters to see it. Well, they dropped a new little spot online that has given us some footage and dialogue that we have not yet had in any of the marketing yet so far. Particularly talking about, number one, Tiamut coming out of the ocean. So they finally directly reference it, which was nice. But secondly, and most importantly, Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross explicitly saying and mentioning adamantium. Adamantium, and given a little bit of an example of it, it is now there. It is now present in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we got a few more shots, too, of some of the action shots that looked pretty good and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see. Here's the interesting thing to me, though, about adamantium. If they're saying that adamantium has now found a place on Earth as a result of the Celestial coming out, does that mean Wolverine's not around? Does that mean Wolverine is going to be a brand new character, or that Logan has been running around in the world for 100 years, but only as a mutant with a hyper healing factor? Yeah, and not actually with his adamantium skeleton.
Yeah, he's just got the bone fingies right now.
Yep,
I'm so excited about it.
Or remember, this adamantium's been on Earth for a long time.
Wow.
We just didn't know it was there.
He's just been down
He's
in
been in the core of the Earth.
So it could have been harvested.
So maybe it's been, some of it has bubbled up to the surface at some point.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point.
Is that like celestial farts or what?
Good old celestial farts.
Just bubbling
celestial
up.
pimple
Adamantium
pop
bubbies.
comes on up to the surface.
I mean, he had to have been inserted into the core of the Earth 4 billion years ago when the Earth was created.
Somebody humped the planet.
Yeah, so he's been there for a while. He's been gestating for a while. So clearly adamantium is now about to. I mean, what does this do to Wakanda? Now this is supposed to be a more impressive metal than vibranium, although vibranium is also like a power source, so
reflective
that's a little bit different too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. Listen, I got to tell you, I am still not convinced that Captain America Brave New World is going to make that 95 million that they're projecting opening weekend. I hope I'm wrong. I think they've done a good job with the marketing campaign, but it hasn't been one that's blown me away like some of their other ones have. This was a good spot, though. I got to tell you, this spot did get me a little bit more excited for the film.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, you had a chance to take a look at this new little spot. What things stood out to you? And where do you feel the buzz overall for the movie right now going into its opening weekend? And can it make that 95 million opening weekend?
I think it can. I'm an optimist. We are on an upward trajectory with people coming back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Most people didn't leave. Let's be clear, too. Most people were still showing up. It's just we had a few stinkers in the mix that did turn a few people sour on them. Right? I think that it could make these numbers, especially since we're going back again to that kind of espionage, political thriller thing that made Winter Soldier do so well and be so well received by audiences.
I hope that's the focus.
I really do too.
I hope that the Hulk thing is more just like its own like part of an act that. And I think people are like, "Oh, he's going to beat up the Hulk." Doesn't make sense. I think he's going to survive the Hulk. Beat him up, and get away.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's going to survive the Hulk.
I hope Red Hulk is treated the same way that his creator Jeff Loeb treats him. I just think it'd be fun to have a little green guy and a little red guy, and that's why I did it. Right. Literally, what he said at Comic-Con one year, where I was like, "What the hell, Jeff?" So I hope that this is just that's going to happen, but he's not our main focus. You just are going to get this character in here. My biggest takeaway, though, was Rob. I just immediately thought of you and was like, yes, they finally addressed him.
After years.
Yeah.
Literally years since the Eternals. And I think, no, it's important. That means that is Arishem the Judge going to come back? I mean, look, I fully expect this movie to end with a post-title sequence that's going to carry us not just into Thunderbolts, but because they're bringing up Tiamut, they have to. Is Galactus going to be coming to Earth at the end of this movie?
Ooh.
Because he's a Celestial. We already have Arishem the Judge. Maybe they sent Galactus here on purpose, that Earth has been judged and Galactus is going to eat us because he eats planets.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I don't know.
Now, to be clear, though, sometimes Galactus has been referred to as a Celestial. Sometimes the comics have said he's not a Celestial. Will he be, a agent of, the Celestials? Will Arishem the Judge send him off there? Will that be our introduction?
I don't know.
I have a feeling that we are definitely not going to get any of that in this movie, even in a post-credit scene.
Maybe.
I think you were there, Rob. When Kevin Feige was talking about Brave New World at CinemaCon, one of the things he said in it was that we very distinctly, you're not going to see anything about multiverse in this movie. You're not going to see anything about this. This is going to be grounded, taking us back to kind of like Winter Soldier kind of a movie. Now, maybe post-credit scenes can be an exception when we see Galactus coming out sky, but I would suggest that would feel a little out of place for this movie. Like, if this movie's all very grounded and all like these characters that we have, it might seem a little bit out of place to all of a sudden have Galactus. I think your first thought about this maybe leading into Thunderbolts is probably more the case.
Yeah, they probably want to charge Galactus 25% more to eat the Earth now. So
at least if he's eating in Canada, so there's all that.
Because blame Canada.
Guys, question is for you. What did you think about this little spot? I actually thought it was a pretty good spot. I liked what we saw in it.
It's cool. The tone is right.
Yeah, and they're talking about vibranium or adamantium. They're talking about Tiamut coming out. I'm getting kind of stoked for it. I still have my doubts that it can make that 95 million opening weekend, but I'll definitely be there. What did you guys think about it? Whatever your guys' thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, Let's move on to this, shall we? This is just a little bit of a fun one. The good folks over at comicbook.com put up an article yesterday or today that I kind of like. We're just basically talking about the 5 actors who were almost Captain America. Remember, not everybody at first. It's hard to imagine anybody other than Chris Evans playing Captain America at this point. But remember, there were a number of people that didn't like the idea because he had already been Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four. And thought, he's already had his crack at it. And everybody will deny it now. But at the time, there were some very vocal people saying they didn't like the idea. Well, now it's impossible to think of it without him. But there were other actors who were at certain stages came either very close to being Captain America instead of Chris Evans, or at least were kind of in the running at some point. And I thought it would be fun to go through this article that comicbook.com and then, have us kind of pick who we think, if any of them would have turned out to have been Captain America, who would have been the best one. All right. This is who they start off
one already lined up.
Oh, yeah, I know you do. Let's start with this. John Krasinski
All right.
was actually quite seriously in the running to be Captain America. There's
Did we lose your connection?
They did
there,
make him
John?
Jack Ryan.
Yeah, and he's great as Jack Ryan.
He is great as Jack
He's done a
Ryan.
wonderful job. Well, John Krasinski was up for this role, and he's also talked about in interviews of putting on the suit and then seeing the Chris's and being like, "Oh no, why am I here?"
Oh, yeah, I mean, totally. But he was. Look, I thought he looked good as Reed Richards.
Absolutely.
I will say this. I thought in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, his Reed Richards was a little flat. I mean, he wasn't given a lot to play, so it's unfair to say that. But he didn't exude the Reed Richardsness that I expected of him. But I do like him as Jack Ryan, so he could have been. I think, look, actors are actors. They rise to the occasion.
There's just a wholesomeness and an earnestness that John Krasinski, that literally in voiceover, a lot of times people will call your everyman Reed your Krasinski.
Right.
And so he would have brought this very relatable guy to the mix and everything. So
Whenever
I
he, in the office, whenever he turned and looked into the camera.
when he halperded,
Yeah, well, I mean, come on. He
Loved it.
He felt like a Captain America-esque figure.
Exactly.
Could do that.
So the next up here, we got Garrett Hedlund was mentioned in this article. Obviously from Tron Legacy. What do you guys think about that? Garrett Hedlund. I mean, he seems physically, or not physically, but his facial expression seemed the closest to Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Could you have seen? I mean, he would have been much younger than
A lot younger of a Cap, which kind of does play into that World War II recruitment, though.
Right.
He's a kid who's just been trying to get in there and do what he can to help his country. I like that aspect of it. And Garrett Hedlund is also, I think he's very underrated and has not gotten great vehicles behind him. I'm a Tron apologist. I had fun. I liked it. It was a good time.
I like Tron Legacy too.
Yeah.
The problems that I had with the movie were the fact that we now live in an internet world, and they went the wrong direction. They said, they live
Sure.
in this closed off the grid, and I would have been like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
The promise of Tron, it happened. The world became that, and they decided, because they couldn't figure out how to address that issue,
Yeah.
they had to keep it more contained. But
The digital de-aging is what I had the biggest problem
that
with.
was it was early days.
Yeah.
Early days, but yeah, they should go back and redo that for physical media the same way they went back and redid Ian Holm for Alien Romulus.
yeah.
Come on, Disney. Now that you have Tron, maybe with Tron Ares coming out, they'll go back and
Maybe. That'd be
re-digitize
fun.
Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
But I think he would have done a nice job. He's done a lot of really great dramatic turns too, this
Yeah.
actor.
All right. Well, next up the list brings up everybody's favorite Shazam, Zachary Levi. What do you guys think about that? Because at the time he would have been coming off of like Chuck. I don't know if Perceptions would have been. Boy, I don't know. I think he's got the physicality there.
Yeah, he
but
does.
I don't know
Yeah.
if Perceptions would have been him as Captain America at the time.
At the time, for
Yeah.
sure, no. Post Chuck, no.
Would you guys, with 2020 with 2020 hindsight, would you have liked to have seen that?
Personally, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's hard to say. It's hard to say. I mean, like you said, but an actor, you never know. He had the physicality. He could look the part. I mean, I thought he looked great as Shazam's
He was
Captain.
wonderful as Shazam.
You know,
But
I
he can
just
play that affable nitwit kind of like juvenile thing.
That's what he does best.
Yeah, and it feels earned. It doesn't feel completely put on.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. The article then brings up Channing Tatum. So this would have been, I guess, post X-Men, right? No, I guess he never had his role because that was what's his name that played Gambit.
Oh yeah, Taylor.
Yeah, he
Kitsch?
never got
Yeah,
his.
so this would
he
have been
never got
before
his
he was
thing,
considered.
so-
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know because I just feel like the perception of his acting style back then was not lead actor material.
I could see you bringing him in the mix for this, though,
Yeah.
especially with all of the there's only one God, ma'am, those kinds of things.
Magic Mike can
Yeah.
be Captain America.
But yeah, I think it's more the Magic Mike aspect of it, not necessarily the acting. I think it's just the
Plus, I mean,
vehicles.
with his dancer, he has a dancer background.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the way he could move.
Physically,
physically he'd
physicality.
be great.
I just don't know if he would have been the one to carry a Captain America
Sure.
at the time. Now he absolutely could, I think.
But also, with that same kind of logic, though, the guy from another teen movie,
right.
right? Like, that's what we ended up with.
Yeah.
It's true.
We
Like-
did see him in superhero,
We saw him
in
as
a-
Johnny, and we saw him in some other things.
I personally
sure,
did not.
but-
I personally did not like his character. I hated his version of Johnny Storm. Not
Yeah.
his fault, but
Yeah.
I just didn't like where they went with it. It was
Same.
terrible writing. Obviously, we don't have to talk about how bad those movies were, but
Mhm.
but actually, when I was not one of those when Evans was talking about it in interviews about leading up to it,
Mhm.
I wasn't anti because he was making comments like, if I'm going to do this, I need to commit to this, and it needs to become a big portion of like who I am right now.
Mhm.
And do I want to take on that weight? So he wasn't jumping into it lightly.
No.
And so I appreciated that. So I kind of like the negative talk. I was kind of like, whatever. you know.
Sure.
Fantastic Four boy. you know.
My mom is obsessed with him. He's a good Boston boy, you know? And so she was just on board from day one. He can do no wrong to Marie Carr.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about all these guys could have done it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they could have done it as well.
Well,
sure.
And it's funny because we would have been saying, if the question is who could play Captain America because it hadn't been cast yet,
Yeah.
if Chris Evans was brought up, I think we'd all say no.
Yeah.
Well, I
Because
think
he already played Johnny Storm.
I think the article though brings up one final one. I think that really puts your argument to rest when they bring up Dane Cook, who I think everybody here could have agreed that Dane Cook would have made a perfect Captain America.
Oh.
Yeah, not really,
Woof.
but I'm so glad they didn't go that route.
No. Well, the article does do a great job of saying, hey, Marvel's really done some great stuff with comedic actors
Right.
and bringing them into the mix. I'm always like, I feel that comedic actors can really land drama so well because they understand timing, and comedy is just tragedy that the rest of us get to laugh at. But in this particular instance, I feel like that would have been such bad casting.
Well, you know, it speaks to the whole casting, the way casting is done, and I think you can never undersell how important casting actually is. When you put all these guys together, and let's say did they all read, Jonathan? Does the article say they all read?
For the part,
Yeah,
that I'm not sure. I think it was various like stages of
Yeah.
discussion.
Well,
so-
one of the
Garrett for sure
reasons
did because he was in the final three. It was
one
him and
of
Mike
the
Vogel.
reasons that I'm so excited about James Gunn's Superman is they spent a long time doing what are called chemistry reads, where they were putting actors up against each other to act opposite one another to see who's got the chemistry they need. And in the case of James Gunn's Superman, it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. They spent months doing this. So I'm expecting a lot from those performances,
Yeah.
but Marvel kind of did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they cast a wide net. They probably brought in these people, and there's an ineffable quality that you can't really see until you actually have a person read the role.
Actually, all of these people read.
Okay, they all read.
So all of them read.
So that's really important because they bring in, and you can then only then can you really judge and see. Look, there's nothing better than to watch an actor come in and take what was on the page and bring it to life in the ways that you weren't expecting. And I can speak to that because I am actually sitting in a room right now with an actor who came in and took a role on paper that looked pretty good. But she took it and made it much better than I ever thought it was going to be. And that is our own Chris Carr.
I was
Thanks,
sweating. I was
buddy.
like,
In
oh,
our
it doesn't mean me because I
our
have
own-
no recollection of this.
In our own audio drama,
Bud.
True Noir, The
Aw.
Assassination of Anton Cermak, where she plays Marianne Beam. But that was, and I didn't get to cast her. I just heard her before, so I already knew she could do it. But with Captain America, how's that for a plug?
That was great.
For Captain America, though, it's really difficult to be earnest and also believable in that role. Like you had to believe him as little scrawny little Steve Rogers, and then he turns into a super soldier.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is if you see the casting, if you're in that room and can see.
Well, and that just speaks to the just real genius of Sarah Hallie Finn, who has been the casting director for our Marvel
Unbelievable.
properties.
That's Marvel's secret weapon.
She is so good. The reason why you all typically enjoy who they've cast is because she's just a casting wizard, and she has been able to pair people up beautifully or take risks, and she just does such a phenomenal job.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a misstep yet.
No. Not at all.
Of these names that we've thrown out, we've got, I'll bring it up on the screen, sort of. Here we go. We got John Krasinski, Garrett Hedlund, Zachary Levi, Channing Tatum, Dane Cook. Okay. Of those, who would your second, like, if you weren't going to have Chris Evans, if we never knew about Chris Evans, but you knew about these, who would you have picked?
I feel like Krasinski or Garrett Hedlund. Also not on this list, which I think is weird, is Mike Vogel, who was in the final three.
Right.
Who was in Cloverfield. And that honestly is who I probably would have gone with because of, at the time too, this, hey, we're going to work with maybe not as many known name actors.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like Hemsworth was not a known person. Hiddleston was not known really. And I think he would have been an interesting pick.
I agree. I think I would have gone probably with, like you said, Hedlund and Krasinski.
Yeah. How about you,
Although I
Jonathan?
do think that Channing Tatum could have pulled it off too.
Yeah. He's gotten so
I
much
just
better.
don't know if at the time, because we're going back now.
Yeah.
But my choice would have actually been Krasinski.
Not Dane Cook?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, so we're gonna leave it there, guys. What do you guys think? What would your picks have been? Are you glad we got Chris Evans and not any of these fine actors and comedian? How would you have gone with it? And let us know. Put your comments in the comments there below. You know, just clickety clack. You know how to do it, all you tech kids. We're gonna get back to you after these messages. John did have a little bit of an internet problem, so we're trying to get him back. So he'll pop in. Once he pops in, we'll go back to the four of us. But in the meantime, we're gonna take a little break, hear from one of our sponsors, Hungryroot. So we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Hungryroot. You know, grocery shopping used to be one of the biggest struggles. Between your busy schedule and wanting to eat healthier, it just feels impossible to stay on top of everything. But all that changes when you discover Hungryroot, the easiest way to eat healthy without the hassles. Hungryroot is like having your own personal grocery shopper. They take care of the weekly shopping for you, recommending healthy, high-quality groceries tailored to your tastes, nutritional preferences, and even health goals. They've got it all: smoothies, snacks for the kids, ready-to-eat meals, and even supplements. For me, Hungryroot is absolutely a game changer, guys. My health goals have become so much easier to stick to. I love how they personalize my cart every week and even get smart about my preferences as I go. It's honestly stress-free and so simple. You're gonna love Hungryroot as much as I do. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Campea and use the code Campea. That's hungryroot.com/Campea, using the code Campea to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Campea, code Campea.
All right, guys, we're back. Thanks to our sponsors, Hungryroot. So coming up next, we're going to be doing a little game. You guys have played this before. It's called What's More Likely. Now, normally I would have a graphic to bring up, but it's on John's shot, so we're just going to move forward with it. But first up, we're going to hear from our wonderful fan here, Naird Laird. And Naird Laird says, Chris, what's more likely, HBO Harry Potter series flopping and not finishing the books, or HBO Harry Potter series being successful enough to spawn a Star Wars-esque universe of spin-offs?
A Star Wars-esque universe of spin-offs, so just exploring the world of Harry Potter?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I feel like potentially that one is less likely. Only in that when we've had spin-offs like the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, they haven't done as well. Now, that also was plagued with issues with casting. You know, Johnny Depp was in it, and then he was not. However, we got Mads Mikkelsen, who, like, Oh my gosh,
was
incredible.
great.
So good. But I feel like those movies they stopped looking for Fantastic Beasts. I didn't know where to find them. Where were they? But also, it seems like people did not get as interested in these worlds when Harry and crew were not involved, which is a bummer. I would really love to learn more about the Ministry. I would love to learn more about these different facets there. If we did get things like an Andor, like a Skeleton Crew, I think that'd be really rad. But I feel like that kind of spinoff is less likely. What about you, Rob?
Well, yeah, I do think spinoffs. I think the show's going to be a huge success. A huge success.
I think so too.
I mean, the same way that I expect it to be the MASH. I think MASH ran 10 years based on the movie MASH. It ran 10 years. I could see like them spending 2 seasons on the latter books, and I think depending on how they cast this, it could be really terrific. That's what they're doing now. They're taking movies that were really successful and then turning them into 10 or 13 episode TV shows. It's like this new trend. And now they can really dive deep into the Harry Potter books more so than the movie form of 2.5 hours or 2 hours split into 2 movies can do. And I think that it's going to be hugely successful, I think. And this is something they're taking a lot of care with.
Yes.
So it's got a lot of time to be developed properly. And I think it's really, really going to work. But I think at the end, all this talk of spinoffs, they have to concentrate on making the best show they can.
Yeah.
And it's probably
Don't get
going
ahead
to
of
run.
yourself, right?
It's probably
Yeah.
going to run 10 years. What is there?
Crazy,
There's
right?
8.
Well, there's 7
There's
books.
7
7
books.
books.
There's
And if
8
they did
movies.
a double, it'll be 8.
And then if they get into cursed child territory, which
Yeah, and but then they can do something in terms of spinoffs. They can do something that they haven't done yet, which is take the story beyond the books
yes.
and take them into adulthood in a new way. And if J.K. Rowling's going to do that, if it's doing well, I mean, it gives her a lot of time to write those books because I know people have wanted her to do that. But who knows? I mean, look, I hope it's great. I hope it stands as the greatest fantasy TV series ever put on the air.
There you go. All right, next up, we hear from Chainsaw Max. So, Rob, what's more likely? We see the new Batman first, or we see the new Wolverine first?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say we're probably going to see the new Batman first, but I think it's going to be close. I do think in Secret Wars, they'll probably introduce, I could see a new Wolverine in that movie because I think everybody's going to be in that movie. Anybody your cousin's going to be in that movie.
Oh, man.
Your future wife, you're not even going to know that she was in that movie, but she's going to turn out to be because everyone is going to be in Secret Wars.
I'm so excited to meet her.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow.
So that's how it's all going to work. But I do think that we're going to see, they're probably going to do a Hugh Jackman trilogy.
Oh, you think?
I do. With this new Wolverine, because they've got Old Man Wolverine.
Sure.
Logan was one iteration, but now we've got a new Wolverine. Hugh Jackman comes back, and they do the Old Man Wolverine story.
But with X-23 in the mix.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hulkling. They could do the whole thing. Maestro. Because he could be cut off into one universe. And as this universe they know it's going to collapse, you do an Old Man Wolverine story. And at the end of the story, the universe ends.
As long as we don't get into the Hulk kissing cousin storyline.
Yeah, no.
That's rough.
Like that.
Don't want to do it.
Incest stories aren't my fave. Hot take.
Well,
They seem
Chris,
to be on
why
a
would
lot
you
of
say something so
online
brave?
channels that are into that stuff.
Yeah. I'm not going to yuck your yum, y'all, but
some people say keep it in the family.
Stepmother and stepbrother stuff. You know what I'm
some
saying?
people do.
All right, next question. We got Cole's Clips. Chris, what's more likely? When Tom Holland retires as Spider-Man, seeing as he has said he will stop once he has kids, will they recast Peter Parker or make someone else Spider-Man in the MCU? Like Miles Morales, for example. Okay, so a different character or recast Peter Parker?
I feel like we'll have the passing of the torch to Miles.
Yeah.
That seems like the trajectory of what Marvel tends to do anyway. That's what makes sense. There's comic book canon. And then we can always bring back another Peter at some point or an older Peter or however that works.
Or if Tom Holland's kids say, Dad,
Yeah.
you got to keep being Spider-Man.
Get out of the house, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
they often make these comments, and then once you have this life change, you do adjust to that, and then you're like, well, I can fit in my career and kids or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he'll probably take a break, but then after like 2-3 years, you're gonna be like, all right, I think we got this. Like I can work.
Maybe, but the way the paparazzi treat, not to get full TMZ here,
Yeah.
the way they treat Tom Holland and Zendaya is honestly kind of terrifying.
Oh yeah.
The way they just absolutely pounce on them anytime they leave a place.
Yeah.
Tom Holland is constantly having to like push people off of his fiance. That has to be a really scary thought to have children in the mix with that as well. I don't know how parents in regular homes do this. I don't know how you are able to raise children. That's wild
I
to
keep
me.
TMZ like 90 feet from my house, but yeah, I mean,
Smashing cameras constantly.
yeah, exactly. That's just my neighbors.
Yeah.
Or they could do it. They could pull a Cameron Diaz and just take 5 years off.
Yeah, exactly. Because
know,
then suddenly, like, there's nothing to talk about. TMZ stops following you, right?
I mean, talk about a squeaky clean couple where there's no scandal. I mean, and I like this idea. I like that Tom Holland would say, look, I'm going to have kids. I'm going to get married, take time off, and then he can come back.
Yeah,
Why not?
absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to our question number 4. Jack Turner, filmmaker, says, Rob, what's more likely, Fantastic Four performing better or Thunderbolts performing better?
Ooh.
That's a tough call. You know, having not seen either one, it's hard to say. And I don't know where people's feelings of the Marvel Universe are. And I think that Captain America and Thunderbolts together are going to affect the box office for Fantastic Four quite a bit. Because if they turn out to be satisfying film-going experiences, and they're because these are the Marvel Universe essentially hit the ground. It was like a ship at sea that was crushed on the rocks in the fog, and Deadpool and Wolverine was an outlier. So I think that Fantastic Four would make more money than Thunderbolts, but if Thunderbolts is wildly entertaining and makes a whole lot of money, it could outgross Fantastic Four. But I would say if Thunderbolts makes a lot of money, it tees up Fantastic Four to make even more money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Fantastic Four only because if people like what they see in one movie, they're excited to see the next MCU movie. And I think we haven't had that. We had one MCU movie in 2024 and it made a lot of money, but it didn't tee up anything.
Yeah.
Like what's coming afterwards. Whereas this Brave New World is going to lead into Thunderbolts, politically motivated movies that are going to lead into Fantastic Four, even though Fantastic Four takes place on a different Earth, but it's setting up, we're leading into Avengers, we're Doomsday. I mean, there's a lot that has to go on. Look, if Fantastic Four makes more money, and I think it will, that means the MCU is healthy.
Yes.
If Fantastic Four makes less money, it means the MCU has big problems and no one's going to care.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, I was kind of talking about that trajectory, same thing. It's like you're expecting this to grow. So if there's a drop suddenly, it's like, oh, there goes the trajectory.
yeah.
All right, here's our final question. This one will be for you, Chris. Call Me Majesty says, what's more likely, Snow White flopping or succeeding?
Ooh, well, Your Majesty, I'm thinking flop. Honestly, I'm leaning towards flop. The CGI design is kind of odd. The music feels a little weirdly contemporary. And I know that Snow White, I say this as somebody who worked in the parks, has that little voice, you know, that we are staring at the wishing well, that no one really wants to hear in modern times. But I feel like so far the marketing's been a little off. What we've seen hasn't been particularly exciting. Rachel Zegler, however you feel about her, incredible singer, incredible performer.
Yeah.
And I know some people haven't liked her comments about how this movie is or what they're presenting or whatever. I'm just talking about the movie as a whole.
Sure.
And I just think what we've seen so far isn't anything particularly exciting. And also, when it comes to Disney live action remakes, they're typically not good. They don't have a great track record. We had Cinderella and then, so I feel like it's going to flop.
All right. Well, guys, that was our what's more likelies. So, I think John puts out a post to the community whenever we're going to run these. So look out for those. You can post your question and he'll select about 4 to 5 of them and we'll run through it. We don't do it every day, but from time to time we do it. I do believe we've got John back here. Let me see. Let me cut to him real quick. And
Hopefully.
Yeah, we got you back. Okay, you look great.
Woo! So just as we were doing the show, the internet in the entire hotel went out.
Oof.
The entire hotel's internet went out. So now I'm coming to you on my phone.
Gotcha.
By the way, you guys are able to see and hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, we're great. Well, listen, let me chime in on this Snow White thing
Okay.
for a second. First of all, it all depends on your definition of flop. Some people think anything under $1 billion is a flop. Let's, for our purposes, say that whether or not it's a flop depends on whether or not it makes money and is profitable. This movie needs to probably make around the $400 to $450 million mark to be profitable. And it's going to. Listen, they put out Mufasa, and that wasn't even that good of a movie. And that thing has made money hand over fist. It's been in the top 3 at the box office for 7 weeks, and it's not even that good. And like Little Mermaid, everybody said that was going to flop. That thing ended up making money. It's just, they just do. They just make money. They may not make $1 billion. So, the question is Snow White going to flop or not? What's more likely? They never do. So, no, it's not going to flop. It's not going to lose money. I don't know if it's going to be any good. Mufasa wasn't any good, and that thing still made cash. So I'm going to say it is more likely that it will make money.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's I just think of Little Mermaid numbers when I think of this movie.
That's fair. Little Mermaid was actually charming, though, and this doesn't seem like it is.
We'll have to see.
I'll have to see it first, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm not excited, so I've decided it's gonna flop.
I think Dane Cook is actually in
He's in
Snow
it.
White.
He's Snow White. It's wild.
It's crazy.
No.
Dane Cook was in the running to be Snow White.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, guys, since I'm kind of all off kilter because I don't have any internet on any of my other stuff, but I guess, wait a second, did Rob tell us? Rob didn't say whether or not he thought what's more likely.
Rob,
on this.
what say you?
Well, here's the thing.
Where's your shot?
Here's the thing. Hello. I think what John said, I think, is correct. That these movies are like, I don't think this is going to make $1 billion. And remember, most of us aren't in. Most of the general audience isn't in the internet bubble where they're following all this story. They don't know who Rachel Ziegler is or what she said. It's just Snow White to them. So I think that the movie ultimately has to be good. My concern is like what with Chris's concern. I don't think it's going to flop, but I don't think it's going to be I don't even think it's going to do Mufasa numbers because it's just weird. They obviously went in one direction. They had such backlash. Then they made animated dwarves that look just like the animated dwarves from the original movie, but then the rest is live action, and she's telling them what to do. I mean, it's this weird juxtaposition. I want the movie to be good. I do. I hope it's good because Snow White is the first Disney feature. I just don't think it's going to be a huge hit, and it's not going to make as much money as, say, The Little Mermaid, which was charming, and Mufasa.
I hope it's good.
I hope.
I hope it's good too.
Yeah, whether it's good or not is the bit. That's the. I mean, I just don't know. But I think Mufasa showed us that even if it's not that good, I think Little Mermaid showed us too that they still make money. And so, like $800 million, no, but enough to be profitable to avoid being called a flop. Yeah,
Right.
Probably.
I wonder if we're going to get a
Anyway,
hip-hop
guys.
version of Hi-Ho.
Oh,
I mean-
you know what? I guarantee you there's probably 2 or 3 out there if you look in the right places for them.
Probably.
All right, guys. With that all down, we're going to move on to our main topic here. And forgive me if I suddenly drop out again. I'm sure the guys will just pick up and carry on.
You look
without me if
good.
They do. But let's move on with this. You know, we have all been anxiously waiting for a Fantastic Four trailer. Now, a lot of us have kind of speculated and thought, and we've heard rumblings that they'd have it at Super Bowl. But just because they have a trailer at a Super Bowl, that doesn't mean that's where it's first going to drop. As a matter of fact, we've gotten news coming out saying that the new Jurassic World trailer is actually going to drop tomorrow, even though a lot of people are still expecting it to actually air at the Super Bowl. So that's coming. Well, it appears that the new Fantastic Four trailer is going to drop tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 a.m. West Coast time, and to kind of be the herald, like an unto the Silver Surfer being the herald for Galactus, a teaser for that trailer. Yes, the dreaded trailer for a trailer has now come out.
Oh, I think.
It's come out.
Yeah, it came out. Snap.
Boom.
Here we go. You're back.
Okay. Oh, is there sound though?
Let's see. Hang on, John.
Hang on,
I gotta
John.
Make sure we got your sound.
Yeah.
We see you,
We see you, but he doesn't.
but I don't
Hold
got
on.
any sound.
We see you, John. We just don't have any sound.
Still no.
Nope, still nothing. Let's
It's
see.
like trying to talk to Carol Marcus in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Well, anyway,
All
I
right,
see you, but I
now-
can't
there
hear
we
you.
go. Now we got
Now
you.
it's there. So because I'm doing this on my phone now, if my phone rings, it takes the microphone away and moves it over to
gotcha.
something else.
Ouch.
Anyway, they dropped a first teaser for Fantastic Four, and admittedly, it doesn't show anything. I
Right.
doubt even anything from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what it gives us. It gives us the world. As we see these little kids kind of running through the streets, and because remember, this movie is not happening in the 1960s. Because if you just say this movie's happening in the 60s, that makes you think it's our 1960s. And it's not. This is in another universe. This is in another world. It's in what their version of the 1960s would be. So for them to see these kids running around in the streets, and then you see these cars, and you're getting that sense of that aesthetic that we're going to get in the movie, and that kind of excited look like, oh, something fantastic is going to be happening, and like some kind of countdown to the launch of the Fantastic Four. Who knows, whatever that is. So I thought the look of it was really cool. I like getting our first glimpse into the aesthetic of that world. But really what it brings up the question for us is the big news isn't the teaser itself. It's that it's announcing the trailer comes tomorrow. And so, Rob, let me ask you, first of all, what did you think of the little teaser? I thought it was really nice. But secondly, and most importantly, we now know this trailer's coming tomorrow. What are you expecting to see in this Fantastic Four trailer?
Well, when the sun comes out, I think that what I'm expecting from this trailer is, like you said, the world. I loved seeing that whole 60s. I love the idea that the Fantastic Four are already the Fantastic Four in this movie.
They're like rock stars.
They're
right?
rock
Yeah.
stars, you know, they're TV stars, whatever. Whatever's happened to them in orbit, the gamma radiation or whatever, has already occurred. So they're already like ballers in their universe, which I think is a great way to begin because we already know who the Fantastic Four are. We don't need another origin story yet again, which I think, like what James Gunn is doing with Superman, kind of the same vibe, a different universe. Superheroes are already active. People already know who they are. There's already a sense of wonder. And the fact that the kids are all excited about the Fantastic Four makes this, first of all, this different approach. I'm in for that alone. But also, like with James Gunn's Superman, this has to work. Like,
Yeah.
they got Matt Shackman to come back, and I loved what he did with WandaVision. You know, despite the fact that the end of WandaVision might not have been as exciting as you wanted it to be, the show itself, I mean, when you got to that fourth episode and you were out of the sitcom world and into the real world and seeing what happened, I was like, I really like what he did. I think they really have taken the time they've needed to develop this and make it great. And look, I'm not going to be a cynic. Hope springs eternal. It's the Fantastic Four. There is awe and wonder in the world to be found, and I think we're going to get it, John. I think we're going to get it. But then again, you know, tomorrow at 4 a.m., I might feel differently.
Well, I mean, let me put this to both of you guys that are there. Like, we're getting this trailer tomorrow. Chris, like, what are you kind of expecting? But here's a bigger question. I am wondering, are we going to see the transformed Ben Grimm Thing? I mean, I'm assuming we're going to see shots of the family. I'm assuming we're going to see, you know, Backrack like there in his normal human form. But one of my biggest question marks is, are we going to see the Thing? So I don't know. What are you expecting from it? And are we going to see Thing?
Oh, I absolutely think we're going to see the Thing. If they're already established,
And we're going to see a thing, and he's going to say it's clobbering time.
Oh man, it's going to be so good. Oh, cousin, it's clobbering time.
It's clobbering time.
Perfect. It's going to be amazing. I'm really pumped about all of this, honestly. I'm really, really psyched. The big gamble here, though, is the whole like different universe and giving it this different aesthetic. Because right now, this is a thing that Marvel's kind of taken a backseat on of we're kind of doing traditional superhero movies, right?
Right.
For a while, we were a little more experimental, and sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. But really making this its own kind of mod 1960s world, that is a big risk, even though that's when these comics took place. And I'm wondering how people are going to feel about that after we see this trailer. If it's going to feel like very period piecey, very sci-fi-y, or if people are going to just be genuinely excited about seeing the first family.
Over or under, we hear, "I hunger" in this trailer.
Oh, I don't think in this one.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I feel
Come
over
on,
that.
not even in the black and it sees the stars and you hear it. They've got a great actor who could deliver that line.
Holy shit, his voice
They
is so
do,
good.
but
Oh
here's,
my
here's the
God.
thing
Oh
that
my
we got to
gosh, for
remember.
anyone who's been playing Final
Here's what we gotta
Fantasy
remember,
and he's
though.
Sid, oh my God.
It is the first trailer.
Yeah.
And the pattern for a lot of the big movies lately is the first trailer, very little, sometimes no dialogue. It just gives you a sense of the style and kind of the movement of it and the action of it and that kind of stuff. A lot of musical hits to go with certain shots and things like that. Like, they usually don't get too into it in the first trailer. And so I suspect we might get a shot of Silver Surfer like flying through the sky,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think there's going to be any trace of Galactus in this trailer. I don't think they're going to tell us what the movie is about in the first trailer. I think we're just going to get we're family and like some wild stuff and everything like that, but I don't think we're going to get anything like, now look, Rob, if they did do this thing where at the very end of the trailer, they just cut to deep space and you don't see anything,
Right.
just deep space, and you hear, "I hunger," or something like that.
Or the
Okay,
Earth.
I mean, if you're going to have any dialogue, you put that dialogue in it. That could be fun.
Just because I would lose my mind. As a long-time, lifelong Marvel fan, I have a Galactus toy that says that. I'm looking forward to that.
That
And we're
says,
getting
"I
classic
hunger"?
Galactus,
Mm-hmm.
not Ultimate Galactus that's a cloud.
Mhm.
I still think we will get more. I think we'll get more Silver Surfer than anything else.
Yeah.
I saw some people in the chat asking, like, do we think we'll see Mole Man? We might get a little bit Mole Man, actually. You might get a little something like that if they want to put in this first trailer shots of like Johnny or Sue or Reed like fighting something or somebody. They'll probably give us a little bit of that. Again, I'm just not expecting a lot of narrative. I'm expecting a lot of visuals, but not a lot of narrative in the first trailer. I think they'll save that for the second trailer. And by the way, I already saw some people asking, well, wait a minute, are they going to drop a second trailer at the Super Bowl? No, that's not what I think is happening here. I think they're just putting out now the trailer that will be playing during the Super Bowl. And look, some people might ask, well, why would they do that? Well, because the people that are hungering for this trailer will rush and watch it online tomorrow. And then at the Super Bowl, remember, they're spending this $8 million to put out this little spot, not to get in front of the people who are already excited for Fantastic Four. They're trying to put it out at Super Bowl to put it in front of all those football fans who may not be thinking about Fantastic Four right now and go, hey, you might want to check this out. So, and that's what I think the same thing's going to be, because it sounds like tomorrow you guys are going to have two things to talk about. You're going to have Fantastic Four trailer and a Jurassic World trailer to talk about.
Mhm.
So, okay.
I
so
hunger for both because they both involve big creatures eating things.
Do we see Johnny Storm flame on, or do we just see him in his normal form in this trailer tomorrow? What do you two guys think?
I feel like from what we have in this little teaser, I feel like there is going to be this kind of exhibition kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
We'll see Reed reach for something, we'll see Sue phase out, we'll see Johnny flame on, and then we'll get some clobber in time.
Yes. And they're going to say those things.
Yeah.
We're going to hear them say those things.
Oh,
And
you
I
think we'll hear the line like clobber in time?
Oh,
and you
yeah.
think we're gonna? I don't think we'll hear. Here's what I think. Because Fantastic Four are already in this universe, I think we're going to probably see some kid wearing a Ben Grimm shirt that says like clobber in time on it or something like that, with or without hearing. But I think we're going to actually hear the words flame on.
I genuinely
that-
think
I
it's
think-
going to be a presentation, and then we're going to have we're clear, and we're going to see them kind of drop the like personas of how they have to present themselves.
That's interesting.
And then go back to more like bickering family kind of stuff.
Maybe. I think if we're gonna hear like a flame on and he clacks on with flame, it's gonna be a stinger at the end of it.
Ooh.
Like it'll be
Could
like
be.
Fantastic Four and then flame on, and then it's done.
Yeah.
Here's another question. Do you think, because we've seen some bigger films do this too, do you think this first trailer is going to be like a minute long, more of a teaser, or do you think we're going to get a full blown 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes trailer tomorrow?
I think whatever it is, personally, it's going to be a character trailer.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's going to be big. It's going to be a big trailer. They need to convince. Remember, they're coming on the heels of 3 fairly. I mean, the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies weren't awful. They made money, but they
were awful.
This trailer needs to be.
They were awful.
This trailer needs to be big. You know, they're going all in. They're the Marvel's first family. They've got to convince a dubious audience that Marvel is back, baby, into the 1960s.
You know what? I think you're spot on with that. The fact that, listen, I don't think Marvel is unaware of the fact of the movie-going public's experience with the Fantastic Four the last 15 years has not been good.
Right.
It's been quite disappointing. And we just recently tried to relaunch Fox did, but they just recently tried to relaunch Fantastic Four, and that landed with a thud. So I think you're onto something there, Rob. I think, again, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I think they're going to want to make a bold first impression, which is why I think we're going to hear Flame On. I think we're going to see Johnny Storm. I think it's going to be a full 2.5 minute trailer. Because I think you're right. They're going to want to come out swinging big.
There is an undercurrent, wouldn't you think, John, of epicness with Fantastic Four? I understand in terms of like the larger population has not seen the videos of the Hollywood Bowl and all that, but that was done for marketing terms. They didn't just do the Hollywood Bowl presentation naive to the fact that everyone was filming it and it was going to be all over YouTube. I feel like, you know, we're not getting this bombastic score from the Thunderbolts or from Captain America 4. We're getting this undercurrent that people aren't quite aware of as it bubbles up of epicness that they're going to try to push for the Fantastic Four. Yeah. So actually, you guys definitely swayed me on that. I think they're going big on this.
All in.
Yeah, especially when
they're going to be brave and bold.
Rob, I remember you and I talking once, not too long ago, and you kind of thought that, like, we don't really know, since having to change their Kang plans, and we know the X-Men saga part of the MCU is starting to come up, but, you know, you theorize that while they may not be the absolute centerpieces, the Fantastic Four, and maybe even particularly Reed Richards, is going to be playing a major role in the MCU as a whole moving forward.
Yes.
And if they are, to Jonathan's point, you know, they have to give it that sense of epicness. They have to give it an event feel. Like, hey, guys, Fantastic Four coming out is not just another MCU movie. Fairly or unfairly, Thunderbolts, I'm actually more excited for Thunderbolts than I am for Fantastic Four. But Thunderbolts is just another MCU movie. And like, hopefully it'll be great and I'm excited for it, but it's just another MCU movie. I think what Jonathan is saying is absolutely right. I think Fantastic Four, and I think what Rob was alluding to is right, is going to be not just important for this one movie, it's important for what they're going to be trying to do moving forward. And they've got to have this Reed Richards and this team go over really big with the audience, because I think Rob's right. I do think they're going to be playing a central role in the MCU as a whole. So they got to go big.
Well, if you think about it, you know, when Captain America was revived at the end of First Avenger, and he was a man out of time, he became sort of the central focus of a time that was long past, the greatest generation. We won World War II, and he was not cynical. We are now in these dark, cynical times, and the Fantastic Four could kind of play the same role that Steve Rogers played in the MCU back in when he was revived. The Fantastic Four coming from a different universe, they're like, gosh, gee willikers, we believe the world's a wonderful place. You know, and the actual family element, the nuclear family element, both literally and figuratively, of the Fantastic Four could provide an element of hope in a dark world, a post-Thanos, post-Celestial, post-Adamantium, post-whatever world they leave us. When the Fantastic Four shows up, they literally could bring a sense of hope in the same way Superman can bring a sense of hope to the DC world that the Marvel Cinematic Universe desperately needs. And it's the first family. All the other heroes will be able to rally around these people that came from a different universe to bring something to the world that we were desperately in need of. And I don't know if they're going to do that, but it certainly is a way to rally a new Avengers team. Like Reed Richards was like, these Avengers sound wonderful. We should put them back together. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if Pedro Pascal is going to say, oh, gee willikers. I don't think he will. But I do think the idea of the Fantastic Four being a galvanizing force in our MCU could be really interesting and lead us into the next phase, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll end off with one question, okay, that I'm going to have for everybody here, and then we're gonna for technical issues, we're going to wrap up the show a little bit earlier today. But I want to end it on this. I want to ask all three of you guys this: what percentage chance would you give this new Fantastic Four trailer that's dropping tomorrow morning exceeds the viewership numbers that the Superman trailer got? Because remember, the new Superman trailer became the 5th highest viewed trailer of all time in its first 24 hours. Will this trailer that's dropping tomorrow surpass the Superman one? Jonathan, I ask you first.
I don't think it's going to surpass it, although my heart wants it to, and nothing to do with DC, Marvel, fanboying, whatever. What it has to do with is that it means that it is a healthy state of affairs for superhero fare. Mm-hmm. It means people are excited to come back to theaters and excited about these movies again. I think that would only help Superman down the road. So I hope that it does better, but I think it's going to do less than, because there was so much curiosity about Gunn's direction.
All right, Rob, does this Fantastic Four trailer exceed the viewership numbers of the Superman trailer?
I'm with Jonathan on this. I don't think it's going to exceed the numbers, because I think even, especially within our circles, there's a lot of cynicism toward the MCU right now. That said, if this trailer is a banger, and if it creates something new that we haven't seen before, and I suspect it might, if only by this brief snippet we have of these kids, if the trailer is that good and shows us something very new and different and puts a smile on our face and people are like, that was awesome, it very well could if the trailer's good. But I would suspect it's not going to do those Superman numbers. I don't think it will, unless we're going to see something that exceeds all of our expectations.
Before I go over to Chris, I'll say I do not think it'll match the Superman numbers, mostly because of the fact that the Superman film is just a more important film in the sense that it's the launch of a whole entire new cinematic universe. And like an entire cinematic franchise is riding on this movie and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to see big numbers for Fantastic Four's trailer in the first 24 hours. Maybe even top 10 all time, especially if it's good. But I don't see it cracking the top 5. I don't know. Chris, what do you think?
I mean, I do agree with all of you, but just to be a contrarian, I'm going to say that it's going to succeed. It's going to have higher numbers. It's going to do amazing. Mostly because we're having something that is a very different flavor. I think a lot of people are interested in how this world is being presented.
Marvel has a larger baked-in audience too right now.
I think
for
so.
All reasons.
And so I feel like there's the potential of it doing really well, especially if we do have some kind of pop in here that is that, oh my God, have you seen the Fantastic Four trailer yet? You got to go give it a goog right now. You got to watch it.
Yeah.
Give it a goog?
Give it a goog. Give it a Google.
Is that the new slang for it?
Yeah.
Give it a goog.
Amy Newman says so many things that become just brainworms for me. I'm a sponge.
All right, guys, listen.
You gotta goog it.
And that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for your patience, understanding that I'm up in Canada right now visiting with family. Don't worry, the crew, without me, will be back again tomorrow. I'll actually be up in the air, flying back to LA tomorrow while the show is on. And for all you guys who sent in questions, I do apologize, but the technical issues is going to make it a little difficult for us to get to the questions that you guys have sent in via our tip link. Don't worry, we'll start the process of getting caught up on those tomorrow. Anyway, I want to thank the those three back in the studio who've really made this possible. Chris Carr, thank you so much. Jonathan Voico.
See you guys tomorrow.
Robert Meyer Burnett.
Ooh, I'm excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow.
Can't wait. And by the way, guys, just to let you know, very uncharacteristic of John Campea, I will be putting out my first reaction to the Fantastic Four trailer at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I'm not going to be able to be in studio with these guys to talk about it. So keep your eyes open for that. That'll do it for us for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.
I hunger.